We're Maddie and Nico, and we are turning this empty cargo van into this tiny home on wheels. We have no building experience, but we'll take you along each step as we transform our 2020 Ford Transit van.
Today we are finally getting to paint these lower cabinets. We've been waiting because it's been raining and cold. The primer that we're going to use, which is this, Kills 2, says we need to have it above 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and right now our garage is saying 55. So we're gonna go ahead and paint these. Tomorrow's supposed to be warmer as well, so I think we can hopefully get everything painted. We're gonna roll the primer on. I think we're gonna leave the insides of the cabinets just bare wood, and then we'll do some spray poly. Leading up to painting is pretty important, so I just took the time to wipe it down with a tack cloth, try to get all the dust off. I also swept the garage because it's super dirty and dusty, and then I closed the garage door so the wind wouldn't be blowing in.
We applied 2 coats of primer, allowing 2 hours between coats. We are about to get started on painting our actual paint now, which is exciting. This is our color. It's called Pine Mountain, and we're using the Bare cabinet and trim paint. You kind of want something that has an enamel in it because it'll be really durable for your cabinets. And we went with semi-gloss. You can also get it in a satin. I was really on the fence about this, so hopefully we like it. And we will be applying this paint with a high-density foam roller.
So we just got 1 coat of our green paint down. It's starting to get a little cold outside, so we're gonna stop here, let this dry overnight. Here's what they look like. And we'll see you tomorrow. Good morning, it is the next day, and today we are doing our second coat on these. I'm gonna do a quick sand.
We sanded with 220 grit sandpaper. Now while we're waiting for our second coat to be dry enough to do our third coat, we are going to add a polyurethane onto all of the wood here that we're not painting. There is a lot of wood that you need to seal and protect from water. We applied 3 coats of the polyurethane.
A tip for cleaning up paint: if you wrap your rollers or brushes in some saran wrap and then just put it in the fridge, you can just take the saran wrap off the next day and start using it again. Super easy cleanup. So here is our finished fridge cabinet. Looks pretty good. So this is dry now. We just did a little bit more polyurethane up just in here to give the bare wood a little protection. Today we are painting our cabinet doors. We are trying a airless sprayer today. We got primer in right here. I thinned it with a little bit of water. I did a little trial run just to get the flow right, and I think it's pretty good. So we're gonna try it.
We use the same Kills 2 primer as before. When using a paint sprayer, make sure to apply even coats by keeping your sprayer perpendicular to the surface that you're spraying. Move the sprayer, don't tilt your wrist to apply your paint. Apply light coats so that the paint doesn't run. Once you're done priming, make sure to wash out your sprayer thoroughly with water before moving on to paint. You will want to strain the paint as you fill the sprayer. Use a scrap piece of wood to test out the flow of your sprayer. Once you know it's good to go, spray away. Just to reiterate, make sure you apply multiple light coats of paint.
Good morning. It is the next day. The day after we did our second coat of our spray for the green cabinets. Cabinet doors, that is. And here they are. We're gonna put some hinges on right now.
Since our van walls are curved, we had to use some shims behind our cabinet nailers in various locations. One in the middle, two more, three more on top. We also bolted this cabinet through the metal bed frame, then we test fit the fridge.
Need another hand?
It's just squeeze in there. Get the corners.
Okay.
You could come my way.
Yep.
Good morning is the next day. While Maddie's inside making some French toast, I'm gonna put down our flush mount base piece of our Dometic fridge. How it goes on is there's these two holes right here and right there, and these are the feet of the fridge. So the feet of the fridge just kind of screw into the bottom, and these just go right through these holes and screws in and holds in like that. Okay, so what I just found out is on the bottom side of this, there are little tabs here. This tab, that's a bit separate from this piece. Whichever side your door hinge is on, it looks like you can just bend this tab out and perhaps break it off, or else it won't sit flush. So I'm just gonna bend that back like that. So here's the part of the hinge on the bottom side. When you lift this up, there's these little tabs that go inside of the flush mount. And then since I bent this back, it actually sits flush now. Then you want a short little screwdriver for this. Do the same thing on the other side. So now when we open up the fridge, this is what I just put on here. Before, when we opened up this fridge and it was in this cabinet, you could see the base of the cabinet, but now it's just this flush mount all around. So I just got the bottom of the flush mount, and unfortunately it has raised our fridge maybe about 1/16 of an inch, and now our fridge doesn't fit. But what we're gonna do is take this out, maybe get a belt sander, and make it fit again. The struggle continues.
Once the fridge fit, we connected the simple wires in the back with lever nuts and then screwed it into place. Time for the best part, taking off this plastic.
Oh. Ta-da! We got a fridge.
Today we are starting to work on our butcher block countertop. We just picked it up from Home Depot and we have taken off the plastic, and once you do that you're supposed to seal it within 48 hours. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. Okay, so we have put our butcher block in here. We Need to scribe this weird edge. We have this bump out here as well as the wall edge.
This side is touching the wall, as you can see, and then there's obviously a gap here.
So what we did is we put the piece of wood up on here, and I took a tape measure and I measured from our cabinet to the edge on this corner and on this corner, and made sure that that was an equal measurement as we laid this on here. So it's about 6 3/4 of an inch, and we want the countertop to overhang the front of our cabinet by 1/2 inch. So that would be, if you subtract 1/2 inch from 6 3/4, you get 6 1/4, which is the exact length of this scribe I've made. Just double check it actually, now we got our pencil in here. Yep, 6 1/4 to the tip of my pencil here. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go around these edges and draw this line. Same thing back here. We also have a square, and we've already got some preliminary lines here. So by getting the angle of this wall here, and that's been traced out here, and as well as over here. So that way we have a very precise look at what that angle is that way. So now I'm gonna go ahead and scribe this whole thing. And the idea is that once we have 6 1/4 cut off, we can slide this whole thing back equally 6 1/4 inches that way. It's going pretty much around this way. On this part. Look how nice it looks.
Yeah, look at that.
That's great.
Good.
Real nice there. Yeah.
It worked.
Worked.
So here's the curve I cut. Not much of a gap there. Slight gap here, but we're gonna tile this entire little pocket, and a little bit of a gap here too. But I think the thickness of a tile will be thicker than, it'll fill this gap.
So now that we have this counter in place, we just need to take a pencil to mark out exactly where to cut out for our oven and gas range. So I'm just gonna go under here and mark where the edges of this cutout line up with the butcher block. And then we need to add 1/8 of an inch to the total width of this opening. That's because there are some little pop-outs on this side of the oven for some screws to go into the sides of the butcher block. So it just needs to be slightly wider than this opening we have here. To do that, I'm adding 1/8 to the total length, or a 1/16 on either side of the marks that we put underneath there. Okay, we have the test fit with the oven stove combo. We just need to cut the sink still, obviously. Everything's looking pretty dang good, I'd say. This sits flush there. Counter comes out to here. One thing I didn't say earlier, we did end up, instead of having a 1/2 inch overhang here, the counter is overhanging by 1 inch. And the reason why we ended up doing that is because we wanted this edge of the butcher block to be flush in this corner of the oven. So in order for that, we looked at the oven's manual, and the measurements needed this to be about 1 inch. I think it was technically 15/16, but we did 1 inch, and that seems to work just fine here. And now we're gonna cut out the sink. So the way we're gonna cut out the sink shape is I'm gonna cut so it's got a little bit of an overhang of the counter here, so that way I can go underneath with a pencil and trace the exact size of the sink as it sits under here. So I've just made a mark here and a mark there, and so that's how much we can cut and let the sink overhang. And then I'm gonna draw a square on here so we get as far back as we need to go as well and get that all cut out. Now we're just gonna trace underneath and get the full contour of the sink. So we are setting up the router to cut out the sink because we think that'll be the most clean looking cut we could possibly do for our sink. So I traced it and we set up this square so that way it's the right distance from this edge for the router to cut. God damn it. Attempt number 2. We had some frustrations with the router yesterday, and so today we are testing out a new router bit, and hopefully we get this right. If not, we're gonna have to cut out our sink a different way, which is fine. The router is just the most like clean edge that we could possibly get, so we're hoping that it works. Here we go, new router bit. After using a straight router bit on the back side of the counter, we flipped it over and used a flush trim bit to complete the cut. This was due to the thickness of the butcher block.
Just got done routering out the sink hole. We had a couple mishaps, one being this, where it tore out. We do have the piece though. Cut that down and glue it on and make it look a little better. And then another thing that happened was our trim router bit bearing decided to fall off. So our line right here, it came in a little bit. Luckily I caught it before I went too far. And then over here there was a bit of tear out from the first route. So there's kind of a wavy line here, but I think we can sand that out to be pretty decent.
Moral of the story is sometimes routering isn't a better cut than just like a jigsaw. We thought it'd be an easier, better cut. Not necessarily easier, but like a nicer finished look. And that's not necessarily the case with all of our mishaps. It was a lot with the routers. I have no advice on how to do it any better, and I don't think that this guarantees that if you were to go the router route that it'd be bad. Many people do this and it looks good, so I don't really know. I'm not there yet.
We're not professionals.
We wanted to shave off some weight from the countertops. Initially, we found that our counter weighed 35 pounds. A hexagonal pattern is best for removing weight while retaining the strength of the butcher block. We didn't want to buy a fancy router jig, so I just traced a bunch of hexagons on the back of the butcher block. Then Nico roughly followed the pattern. This won't be seen, so we didn't care about how it looks.
So I just got done with the first round of routing out our countertops right here. It's a long process. It's super dusty and it's not that fun, but we did shave off about 4 pounds. I think I might go a little bit deeper and shave off a little more weight. I don't know if this is all worth it, but it's fun.
We routed out a total of 3/4 of an inch of depth from our countertops. Next, we rub mineral oil over the countertops to seal them. You'll want to do this multiple times over the next few days to get a proper seal. We have our counters sealed and in. Here's what finished look is. I guess we never showed everyone the look. This is our first time seeing it ourselves actually, with both the oven and the sink in place with the countertops, and it looks really good. We do have a bit of a gap between the sink and the counter. We think we might just apply like a white silicone. And this one looking good here as well. So before we screw these cabinets in, we're just gonna go ahead and finish adding like our drawer slides and stuff like that, things that'll be easier to do before attaching the tops of our cabinets. But otherwise it's looking very good and starting to look nearly finished in here. We still have to cut a hole for a faucet, which we'll do eventually. That'll be here-ish. And then also, oh, I just want to point out, so here's our corner that we messed up and we glued this piece back on, and it looks actually, and like another piece right here was glued on, so there and there. This one you could kind of see around the edges of like where that one was. It's really much less noticeable, especially from a distance now. It's still not a perfect cutout around the sink. We fixed some of the wobbliness that was happening over here, but it actually looks much better and I'm happy with it, which is key. Are you happy with it?
I'm pretty happy with it.
Happy
it's pretty
with it.
damn good. Right now I'm about to cut a hole for our drain for our sink.
We applied silicone caulk to the base of our sink and then stuck it down in place. After drilling a hole and attaching our faucet, which we didn't record, we put our countertops in place and then screwed them in from the bottom. To fill the gap between the counter and the sink, we used Alex Plus, which is a silicone gap filler. Hi from most likely the future for you guys. Our fridge cabinet was squeaking a bit, so we have taken out the cabinet, put it on its side, and let me show you. And we are putting blue tape in to see if that does anything because this is the bottom side of the cabinet. Because basically it was squeaking. It was like slightly rubbing on the floor. We are not drilling this particular cabinet through the floor for a couple of reasons. One being that we can't get a drill underneath this cabinet because the thing that the fridge sits on is too low. Second thing is we just didn't want to do too many holes through the floor because this laminate flooring is supposed to be able to expand and contract in the heat. So in order for the floor to be able to expand and contract, if you have a hole with a screw going through it, it's not really able to do that unless you like drill a bigger hole around the screw. So it's kind of a process. We will be screwing our bench, our shower bench, through the floor, and I'll show you how we go through that whole process. But yeah, we just didn't end up doing it for this cabinet. So I'll let you know if this fixes our squeak problem. We're just using basic painter's tape on the bottom.
Hello from the future. This is the section where we go over our lessons learned of all the things we did maybe wrong or just things we did right and we like and we just want to tell you. So here we go.
You might notice we're not in our van right now. We're actually in a rental camper van in Australia, which we will be vlogging, so stay tuned for this video sometime in the even further off future. So we still have a lot to cover in our van build.
Lesson number one, you already saw this, we already talked about this in the video, but we wanted to reiterate it here. Do not paint your cabinets where it's gonna rub against something else like you saw with our floor.
We ended up putting painter's tape on the bottom of our cabinets because it makes a squeaking sound where the painted wood rubs up against something else. So I would just be diligent about making sure it doesn't rub on anything in other parts of the van. Another thing we want to touch on is that buying a paint sprayer or renting one is definitely worth it. At first we just did roll-on paint for our cabinets, which worked just fine, but the paint sprayer really saved us a lot of time, and we really liked how the finished look came out.
The roller gave a very slight texture. I guess you could say it's orange peely, but I don't know, it's almost not noticeable, but it was definitely hard to, when you're rolling, you can kind of see each roll. So we found it hard to get the lines of the roll out, and with the paint sprayer you could just quickly spray. I think the trick to the sprayer is just doing super light coats, and if you haven't used one before, you want to hold it about 9 inches to a foot away, and you want to keep the sprayer directly perpendicular to what you're spraying, and try not to go like this at all or like this. You want to do
nice even
lines. And then when you're overlapping, you just overlap, I don't know, maybe just an inch, so you're not doing like a full overlap spray.
And then our last lesson learned is that it would be easier to install drawer slides and even door hinges in some cases before installing cabinets. Definitely the drawer slides. We just wanted to let you know in this video, I know we haven't showed us installing the drawer slides yet, but this way, if you're at this stage of your cabinet build, you might consider installing these before putting them in the van, especially because we will be building toe kick drawers, and those are really hard to access to get down there with a drill to drill the drawer slides into the sidewalls. But if we hadn't installed our cabinets in the van yet, we could have just flipped them over and then installed all the slides super easily. So that's what I would do next time if I were building my own cabinets again. I
guess lesson 4 is, you saw me route out little hexagonal shapes on the bottom side of our countertops. Was it worth it? I don't know. We saved about maybe 8 pounds, which is something, but it was a lot of work. If you made it this far in the video, please give it a like, a comment, and subscribe to our channel. We'll come out with new videos every Sunday or maybe every other Sunday.
So we'll see you next time.